Now, I would like to introduce our first Chicana Executive Director, Natalie Lente.
Wow, look at this beautiful room. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I do want to acknowledge that we do have our ASL interpreters here. They joined us today, so thank you for being here. As was noted, my name is Natalie Lente, and I am the new Executive Director of the Mockingbird Society. I've been in this position for 8 months. I am the first executive of color in the history of the Mockingbird Society, and I do not take that lightly. Thank you. So I'm so excited to share in solidarity with our young advocates today. I'd like to start with a heartfelt welcome to our young people leading the way. Welcome Emily, Derek, Caitlin, Charisma, Nicholas, Shadiman, Myra, Abel, Elena, Beth, Rosemary, Isabel, Fabio, Bunny, Conifer, Mayana, Ariana, Lacey, Ender, Onyx, Lucas, Maya, Barrett, Tice, V, Caitlin, and Jasmine. I am honored and humbled that you have all accepted me into your communities to break bread, to chat over coffee, to laugh until our bellies hurt. You have trusted me with your stories of truth, that your strategies for change have elevated my own bar of excellence, and that you're here today to be visible and vocal to address the systems in play that are being moved through our conversations, through all of us. Please remember it's okay to be imperfect. Resist the dominant culture, systems, and structures which promote perfection. Perfection is an illusion. Please have grace for yourselves as advocates today. Your courage and resolve already fill this room. I see you. I see you. Would all of our young advocates please stand and be recognized? Thank you all. I would ask that our supporters today be mindful of our young people, that you acknowledge their courage, passion, wisdom, and vulnerability in all of your interactions with them. Please recognize that the problems and solutions that will be presented today are not yet intended to be fully fleshed out formal proposals, that today is an opportunity for all of us to provide an engaging, empowering, and loving experience for these new advocates, and that we are all being gifted by the perspectives that they bring. Welcome to the founder of the Mockingbird Society, whose guidance, support, love, and friendship have lifted and fueled my heart. Thank you. Welcome to the commissioners of the Washington State Commission on Foster Care and the Office of Homeless Youth. Your support and partnership with Mockingbird youth and young adults across the state have been instrumental in driving change in our child welfare system and in leading towards ending youth homelessness. Welcome to the Campion and Rakes Foundations, to our community partners, to our sponsors, and to our online audience. Welcome to the Mockingbird Society Board President, whose faith in me shines brightly, who allows me a space to be authentically me and to safely rest in our affinity as fierce women of color. Now, some of you may be wondering why I haven't noted the names of our supporters as I welcomed you. This is intentional. This is because all of you, all of us, have the power and privilege that has not been afforded our young people leading the way today. It is their names, their voices, their stories that should be lifted, not ours. I've also been asked to speak today on Mockingbird's challenges and successes since I was appointed to this role 8 months ago. First, I think it's important to acknowledge the lens through which I've led within every organization. I lead explicitly, though not exclusively, with race, because racial inequities persist in every system across the country, without exception. Advancing social justice requires addressing all areas of marginalization and understanding the interconnected nature of oppression. As local and regional government deepens its ability to eliminate racial inequities, it'll be better equipped to transform systems and institutions impacting other marginalized groups. Systems that are failing communities of color are failing all of us. When I took on this role on November 28th of 2022, I learned that Mockingbird, like many nonprofits across the state, had gone through enormous transition and flux throughout the pandemic. In 2022, the Mockingbird Society lost 23 staff to include its entire director's table. The majority of the staff present upon my arrival were a year or less in tenure. We had only 23 youth and young adults participating in our chapters across the state, compared to the hundreds of young advocates during the era of Mockingbird led by its founder. And the infrastructure of the organization had all but collapsed. I noticed deeply rooted silos across the organization and across the youth services system. I've spoken with many newly appointed executives of color across the state and recognized that many of them had entered similar situations. They expressed frustration and pain about now being responsible for the cleanup of organizations without an engaged and self-organizing network to support their efforts. Each leader being left to work alone within the constraints and limits of their own organization's resources and capacities. The approaches to change that preceded us were reactive and haphazard. We all recognized that our organizations were not leveraging knowledge and innovation from other sectors nearly enough. The structures of our organizations, campaigns, and coalitions weren't supporting the kind of experimentation and collaboration that we all need. In the face of these daunting challenges, we have all had to summon the courage to believe we are the ones we have been waiting for. One of the executives I spoke with asked me, who better than the matriarchs and patriarchs of our cultural communities to lead the change we want to see? We're being asked to believe in our inherent capacity, step into the unknown, and challenge deeply held assumptions. For most of us, that's radically disruptive and contrary to how we've organized ourselves to succeed within dominant culture. We have lived through decades of individualistic, linear organizing, which intends to reform society, but it falls back into the modeling of oppressive tendencies, which we claim to be pushing up against. Some of those tendencies are seeking to assert one right way or one right strategy. And so I ask, how do we turn our collective towards collaboration? An amazing mentor of mine said that justice is loving awareness in action. When we're not coming from a place of loving awareness for ourselves and others, the place we're coming from is othering. In navigating toward liberation, I've come to understand that my personal transformation is intrinsically tied to our collective liberation. I believe that centering relationships is one of the most important strategies in dismantling racism and systems of oppression. If we centered the dignity of every human, we would organize with the perspective that there is wisdom and experience and amazing stories in the communities we love. And instead of starting up new organizations, we would want to listen, support, collaborate, merge, and grow through fusion, not competition. We would understand that the strength of our movement is in the strength of our relationships, which could only be measured by their depth. Scaling up would mean going deeper, being more vulnerable, and more empathetic. And so within my first 8 months in this role, my focus has been to lead to the safety, belonging, and dignity of every human being within the Mockingbird Society, so that in turn, we can lead towards safe spaces to welcome our youth and young adults to lift their voices for change. I've prioritized a learning tour to meet as many community voices as possible to better inform my own vision and decision-making, because after all, individualism is a political concept, not a biological one. We as a species are tribal, we are stronger together, and our organizations should operate as a continuum of care, rather than the silos which represent the power-mongering inherent in white saviorism and ego-driven leadership practices. I made it clear that this first year of my tenure would be a year of internal reflection and healing for our staff and community of young people, that we would focus on the rebuilding of our infrastructure so that we would reimagine a future that resonates with our core values as an organization and as the human beings who make up this organization. In the last 8 months, we have been collectively focused on our organizational infrastructure needs by conducting compliance, operational, finance, and HR audits, investing in staff training, and reorienting our teams for collaboration, by defining expectations around personal and collective race equity and anti-racism work, and building in training and supports, collectively defining clear and specific performance measures, improving onboarding and orientation, and evaluating frameworks, tools, and team composition to bolster programmatic success. I've recognized that even prior to COVID, Mockingbird was operating at a limited capacity to effectively manage the complex work of transforming foster care and ending youth homelessness. Like many nonprofits and government agencies, work was structured to support individual champions, resulting in eventual burnout of champions and large gaps in infrastructure over time. In the next chapter, Mockingbird will be structured in service of balanced workloads for all staff to do great work. We will prioritize advocacy with accountability from an anti-racism lens and an uncompromising commitment to our values and belief this work can only be done in partnership with communities closest to the issues. I'm grateful to the Mockingbird staff, both past and present, who've accepted the call to action from our young people, who have asked us to represent and center those who are currently marginalized. My staff recognize and embrace the truth that we can't get to a new destination without changing who and how we are. And so we walk into the unknown together as we watch for new patterns, learn new practices, new ways of being, and we aim for new heights. Could the current staff of the Mockingbird Society please stand and be recognized?